everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I'm here. It's election night. It is that time again. Some of you guys remember from 4 years ago, how things went and how I called things out. So I'm gonna try to give you guys some updates on what I'm thinking about things as the night goes about. Right now, it's kind of early on. If you're the person that's on pins and needles and stuff, nervous about this thing, I'd tell you to just go ahead and relax right now. There's not really any real results at this particular moment. So watching the horse race of who's ahead and who's not, that really just depends on what counties are submitting their votes right at this moment. So if certain counties finish up early, hey, that's favorable to Trump, then all of a sudden he's in the lead. All of a sudden, and the other way around as well too. So don't sweat all that. Wait till a big chunk and portion of the vote comes in each state, and you'll have a good idea how things are going. So as the night goes on, I'll go ahead and peek my head in and try to get some updates. I got a lot of stuff going on, so you'll bear with me. Right now, I'm in my studio, but as the night goes on, I might be on my cell phone because I got some different things going on that I'm running around different places too. So hang in there. I'll try to keep up with my data and all that stuff so that next time I poke my head in, I have something good to say. But I'll also type out a few things that I'm thinking as well too, so you don't have to only watch the videos. With that said, um, what can you do? What can you expect tonight? Of course, I haven't been paying attention to what any candidate's been saying all over the night. It's been a busy day, been doing a lot of other stuff. But what I can say is expect Republicans to say that cheating's happened, right? They've been doing that for the past couple decades or so, every election. So you can kind of expect that. Again, they haven't been winning majority vote for the most part for a long time, and so therefore they have to create some level of legitimacy about their party. And one way of doing that is say, hey, we would have won a majority vote if it wasn't for cheating. And, they never take it too serious. They make up the stories, busting in illegal immigrants, and there's a report of this. Reports say this. People are saying this, right? That's what Fox News and the right wing media will all say. Ignore all that unless they say, hey, we have corroborated this story and we put our name behind it, that this is actual true story. Ignore anything that they've said, because they're basically, you can, as long as they can find one person who said it, just one person, then they can legally get away with saying, hey, reports say blah blah blah, when people think that a report is something more official, but it's just really a random person who's claiming something. And anybody with a mouth claims stuff, and you know how social media is, and a whole lot of nonsense flying around. So you gotta take everything with a grain of salt. However, just know that his supporters are going to be believing that stuff. So, with that said, it is what it is. They're going to be ramped up, amped up, all that other good stuff. Um, just like last time, 4 years ago, expect Trump to be like, well, after midnight, you shouldn't be counting any more votes, that type of thing. That's stupid. However long it takes to count the vote, every vote has to count. So whether it's past midnight or not, I remember when elections were done on election day. That's stupid stuff. Elections never were done on official count were never done on election day. Never, never. If you remember when that happened, you just remembered the media calling the election on election day. So any pressure that should be given to the media to call it early if you want to call it, but that's still not official. Nothing's official until that state gives the official count. Usually that takes days, maybe even weeks, for the official count for each state to actually, be tallied up, because they got to count up absentee ballots that are still coming in the mail. As long as they're postmarked before the election date, they're good to go. Yada yada yada. And the closer the race is, the longer it's going to take. The only reason things tend to be wrapped up on election date is because once you get like 90 some odd percent of the vote in, and you see that there's a big enough gap that somebody's going to win, then people are like, okay, I don't even need to look at the rest of the vote because I can already see what's going to happen. And so we'll just go ahead and call it for this state. And as that vote comes in, nothing changes later on. That's pretty much how it goes. But if you're ignorant of the process, you can, mislead people and tell them a whole bunch of crazy stuff, make folks nervous and blah, blah, blah. So just understand there's a lot of folks that aren't used to the process. They don't know the process. They are uneducated about the process. They can be misled and told a whole bunch of lies. And they put a caption next to any video. They'll show a video of people doing their jobs as election workers, and they'll put any caption they want to on it. See that right there, when you saw that happen, they were stealing ballots. They were finding ballots out of buckets and bags and suitcases, and just making up all types of stuff they want to make up. All you have to do is make up your mind that you're not going to be paying attention to all that. You focus in on what you need to focus on. I mean, if you know some loved ones that are falling into that, hey, you can help correct them and make sure that they understand how the process works. But the bottom line is, we just got to wait till everything gets counted up. And the closer closer the election is, the longer that night's going to be. And also, there's some Republicans in different states that passed laws that made sure that it's going to take a long time to vote. So, for example, where you don't count up the absentee ballots that they receive early on, or the votes that they receive early on in the drop boxes and stuff. Some states don't allow you to count those until election day. Okay, well, it's going to take you longer to count through that stuff then, right? Because you got to open those things up by hand, one by one, and do all their process and all that stuff. So it's stuff like that that take it extra longer when you could knock that stuff earlier on, right? So there's a lot of misleading, a lot of craziness that's going on, but at the end of the day, you got to have your own right mind, your own peace on the inside, and all that good stuff. Now, with that said, I did make earlier I posted some submissions. I did say that I gave my prediction of what the vote win would be. I put it for Trump, and what different states I thought he probably ended up winning. But of course, a lot of them are super razor close, and so they really could go anyway. So there's no way to 100% call every state. But I feel like Trump has majority of ballots as far as polls wise goes. Now, with that said, who shows out on election day is really what matters. If all of a sudden the wind is, it's extra rainy in certain places, that's who's going to show up, because not everybody's hard. I'm going to vote. Folks are like, hey, if it's looking kind of messed up outside, I might not go vote today. It ain't that important to me, right? And so the type of voter that's likely to have those type of habits, it might mess around and hurt or help certain candidates, right? So there's a lot of things that come into play. So who gets out the vote ultimately makes the difference. Also, you have a lot of ballot initiatives, things like voting on whether or not abortion rights will be available in this state, or whether or not marijuana laws will be available in the state. There's different things like that. When you have those different things on the ballot, that increases the vote for from certain demographics showing up to vote, right? And that can help or hurt certain candidates. So a lot of those different things can all of a sudden turn a race and make it look a little bit different than what the polls say. There's a lot of factors into it. So at the end of the night, we just have to sit, watch, wait, and see what happens out there. But at the end of the day, the states that I think are the closest to look at and pay attention to, you got the Rust Belt states, the ones that were important for Hillary Clinton, that she lost to Trump in 2016. Those are all important. If Kamala Harris wins those states, she will win the election. All right, that's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. However, they're very close states. I think she's going to win Michigan. Wisconsin's going to be very close. It's going to go your way. Pennsylvania, there's a slight lean on Trump there in my book. But again, if she wins all three of those, she's in the good to go. But if she doesn't win all three of those, she's got to get some extra votes somewhere else to end up winning the thing, either out of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, even Iowa. I know there was a poll that came in for Iowa, and there's some things about that poll in regards. It showed her up actually in that state, so she could get those 6 electoral votes. I personally did not put that in her win column just because, well, there's a few reasons, but bottom line is there's some voters that are uncommitted, that don't know who they're going to vote for, right? So in that poll. And usually when Trump's in the election, the majority of the vote that haven't made up their mind who they're going to vote for yet, they tend to go towards Trump. My rule of thinking is that in a Trump election, he tends to be so extreme that folks tend to know whether or not they support him or not, whether or not they want to vote for him, or they hate him. So he's a love or hate candidate. There's nobody really lukewarm on Donald Trump. So with that said, the vast majority of an undecided vote is going to go into the Trump council. Those are people that want to vote for him. They recognize he's nasty and crazy in certain areas, but they want to. That's where their heart is at. And when people show up in that vote booth and they're relying on gut feelings, they're going to follow where their heart is at, and that's for Trump. And they're trying to find some rationalization, justification for it, stuff, things like that. Or maybe they just tell them they don't want to tell the posters openly that they vote for Trump because they know some of the stuff he says is kind of toxic and all that other stuff. So, but that's just the way I call it. And if you look at how polling went in the last 2 elections with Donald Trump in it, if you give all that undecided vote, instead of looking at who's up 2 points and down 2 points and thinking Hillary got to lead because of that, look at that huge undecided vote and put the majority of that, like 90% of it, into Trump's column. And all of a sudden you realize that, hey, those polls were actually accurate. It's just that a whole bunch of folks were on the sideline, not telling them how they want to vote. Now, I'd say in the polls in this election, there wasn't as big of a undecided vote in this election, but it was there. But there is some there, and so you have to take that in consideration, and that's what I take in consideration in my advice. In terms of Georgia, even though the polls have a lot of the polls have Trump in the lead there, if you compare that, look at their Real Clear Politics average, for example, they have Trump up 1.3 points up on Kamala in that particular state. However, when it comes to 4 years ago, when Joe Biden won the state by just a narrow margin, Trump was only up 1 point. So he was up 1 point in the polls, but now he's up 1.3, a little bit better. But it was a super close state then, and Biden won it last time. So it could be super close this time. So we don't know. We have to watch that. Georgia could go into the blue column. We'll see what happens there. But that's a good place to get some votes, especially if she doesn't pull out Pennsylvania. But if she doesn't pull out both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, I think personally it's probably going to be a night for her. She needs to pull out at least 2 out of the 3 of those states in order to have a chance to keep going on and then try to get a 3rd state somewhere. I don't think North Carolina is going to go her way. I hope it does, but I don't think so. And I don't think that Arizona is going to go her way. I think Nevada has a chance of going her way, though. But that's only 6 electoral votes in that particular area. But I think that a lot of the Republican behavior over the last 4 years, and trying to do recounts and relitigate all the votes and all this fraud in some of these places, such as Arizona and Georgia and stuff like that. That to a certain extent can create a lot of sympathy from certain voters that be like, they're making a big deal out of this. Maybe there is something to it. And maybe I feel sorry for them. Maybe we should give them a chance to win for once. And maybe hey, there's something is to it. Maybe the media is after it. And so a lot of folks get sympathetic to those type of arguments. And it's usually folks that aren't very plugged into what's going on and stuff. But it looks like he's improved his chances in those states a little bit as far as polls are concerned. However, but at the end of the night, there's only if there's a decision made, it's going to be one way or another, right? Trump or Harris. And if Trump were to win, then it's just going to be, marching on that street and getting ready and preparing ourselves for what second Trump administration is going to look like. I think that he's going to end the Ukraine war by not supporting them no more and letting Russia have their way. I think that Trump has less to lose second time around. So once you're in your second term, you're not supposed to get another election after that. So therefore, you can be more free to be yourself. You're not afraid of losing an election later on by, having to be afraid to speak your free, true mind. So you're going to get an unleashed Trump. All those little safeguards that kept Trump from following his instincts and doing illegal stuff and bad idea stuff, his bad instincts, and all that other stuff. All those people that were in office that stopped him, Republicans call them deep state, but they're just other Republicans. It's hit people. It's not Democrats. But all those people that were in his administration last time that were stopping him from doing the bad stuff and helping save his administration and actually giving him a better reputation so that he actually even has a chance to be elected the second time around. Those people aren't there no more. So he made sure he stuck to the sycophants, which are the people that are going to just tap dance and do whatever he says yes to. So they're never going to challenge him on anything, never going to push back. He's going to have his way. He's going to have his way. And at the end of the day, if we go that direction with Trump, it is what it is. We get the president that we deserve at the end of the day, good or bad. So I think that he was a terrible president before, shouldn't have had a chance in the first place. However, I think Kamal is better candidate of the two. But regardless of that, if America's not even made up their mind about it, if they're willing to consider a felon and all the other stuff that comes with it, even to have it as a closer race, to a certain extent, we deserve to have all the democracy threats and everything that might come up as a result of this election. When I say democracy, I'm not just throwing that out loosely, but I mean, look at how he talks about the other democratic nation, the different European nations, their leaders and stuff like that. Look how he talks about them, and then look at how he talks about all the autocrats, how he talks about Putin, how he talks about Kim Jong Un, how he talks about leader in China, so on and so forth. So there's going to be a new alliance. America's going to be realigning foreign policy wise in a different way. He hasn't been very open about it. Usually he's evasive. Anytime you try to pin him down on how he feels about Ukraine, there's never one time you can actually hear him say that, hey, I'm going to stand up for Ukraine and make sure that they fight back and have what they need and that they can be a sovereign nation. You never heard Trump say anything like that. Anytime it comes up, what he does is become evasive. He goes back and say, hey, if I was still in office, it wouldn't have never happened because I'm tough. And I would have talked to Putin and said, no, don't go into there. That's all he says is, if I would have been in office, it wouldn't have never happened. But he never says, what will you do as president? Will you support Ukraine? Will you help make sure that they become independent? They're not going to do that. So they're going to go to the wayside. And you got to pay attention to how people play politics with their words and language and stuff. This is all intentional. It's prepped. And so you can get an idea of where they're going to go with it. And so people will find out once things get rolling what the Trump administration really looks like. And I think it's a good thing that we can actually get a chance. We might actually be able to get a chance to see what it really looks like when nobody's holding him back from doing the worst thing he want to do. So, because sometimes we need to see the bad side. We don't need people to protect us from that bad side, but just to feel those painful consequences so that we can be smart enough later on to vote overwhelmingly the other way later on and realize, yeah, that's not for us. But if a whole bunch of folks step in and save him and make him look better than he really is, here we go again. We're ready to vote for him a second time around. So, but that's one possibility of what comes out tonight. The other possibility is if Harris wins. And if Harris wins, then, of course, it's going to be a long transition, right? Because, I mean, even if Trump wins, of course, they're still going to say fraud happened and be like, yeah, I would have won by bigger margins. Or if he doesn't win the majority of the majority of the popular vote, I should say, he's gonna say, yeah, I would have won the popular vote too if it wasn't for cheating, but he wouldn't go deep into it. It'd be like 2016. There wouldn't be all these different weird recounts and craziness going on like you saw 24 years ago. So that's what happens if he wins. But if he loses, of course, we're going to get a repeat of 2020. But it's not going to be exactly a repeat, right? I don't think you're going to have that same event that's happening at the Capitol. They're a little bit smarter and brighter. They're learned from last time. It didn't work out very well. So what's going to happen this time around is they've spent the last 4 years making sure they get more of their people in place to be able to say, to not submit a slate of lecture, to not certify the vote, basically, at the state level. So they have people in places that you don't even need to have that communication, that phone call in from Trump or anything like that. These folks are already loyalists that are in position, so you don't have a trail of corruption that you can try to trace down like you did before. It's just going to be a matter of folks that are going to gum up the process as much as possible. Some of it going to be illegal. They're supposed to follow exactly what the vote says and all that other stuff. And people want to throw wavy stuff and not accept it. Well, I'm questioning the vote. I don't know. And, it's kind of what they were trying to do with Mike Pence before, but they were trying to do that way at the top end. That's not a possibility now. They passed the law to make sure that they know that that's just more ceremonial. That's not something that the vice president has power to do. So they can't even try to go that route anyways no more in the future. It's very clear no more. They can't make up a weird fuzzy argument no more to try to cheat in that way. But now they're just going to have to do it at the individual states. So at those key states, a lot of them have Republican legislatures. They have people in positions to be able to try to work their way around. And ultimately, As far as the Constitution is concerned, each state can determine how they delegate their electoral votes however they want to. It doesn't have to be based upon the vote if they don't want to. Now, most every state's based it upon the vote, but they could decide to be like, we don't care what the voters say. We can have the state legislators pick, vote to pick who ends up getting electoral votes or something like that, right? So not many people aware of that. We can lose our democracy, our ability to have that vote that speaks directly to who represents us really quick and easy. And there's a high temptation amongst the Republicans to be able to go that route. So when we say democracy might be on the line, we're legitimately there. Not just because he's hanging around with dictators and all that other stuff, but also if you have the position where I'm gonna claim fraud if I lose. If I win, I win. But if I'm gonna create fraud, if I lose, I'm not gonna accept it. I'm gonna fight it. Well, that's messing up democracy, because the key element of democracy is the vote. And if you don't respect the vote, if you're not able to shake hands and pass power and all that stuff peacefully, then you don't have a democracy at the end of the day. So it's not hyperbole. That's what it's built upon. And people have to understand the social contract, which is that we agree to be peaceful if we can do this with the ballot. But once we're not able to do it with the ballots, people start doing it with other stuff that starts with B, has a U, two L's, a E, and one more letter on 10, you know what I'm saying? So it gets crazy out there on the streets if folks don't get it. But I don't want to hype folks up too much. I don't think it's going to jump necessarily to that right there. Like I said, it's not going to be as physically prevalent, I don't think. I think there are some extreme elements that will try to ratchet things up if the election is not figured out within 24 hours or something like that. But I think there's are smaller, less extreme, probably not as organized elements. So that's not going to kick off the way I foresee it being able to do. So, but yeah. So if Harris wins, it's just gonna be a whole bunch of fighting at the courts, of course, first and foremost. And even if Harris wins all those battles or whatever, Trump loses them all, just like what happened in 2020, then people don't. Well, let me see. When it comes to federal elections, those aren't televised. They're not on TV, unfortunately. And so therefore people can't just watch and figure out what happened. And people are too lazy to read the transcripts, because there are transcripts of it. So because they're too lazy to read the transcripts, their supporters, their news media and other folks can tell them just like, oh, they never really considered it. They dismissed it because of stand-in every time or whatever, when that's not even the case on all of them. So they bottom line is they didn't have anything to work with. They just made up a whole bunch of stuff, and that's why a lot of their lawyers got penalized, because they were abusing their practice basically by filing these cases that they knew wasn't going to go nowhere, that were pointless. So just because a lot of folks say a lot of stuff, a lot of folks, if people that want to believe it true, all of a sudden they'll believe it. They don't need evidence to believe it, and that's just where we are as a nation right now. I don't think we're going to change that overnight or over the next few months. So we just got to deal with what it is. And hopefully we can all come together. But bottom line is, you got to know where your peace comes from, know who you are, and stand on that. I mean, there are some folks on the margins that will be targeted by a Trump administration. And if you're those, if that ends up being where we go, you prepare yourself up. You got a few months to get ready for it. But some of us, our lives are probably going to be mostly the same. That's usually what it is for most administrations. Some folks on the margins here and there, certain populations might be impacted more or less, and other folks not so much, maybe slightly a little bit. Oh, I get a tax break. Woohoo, let's go out to eat a little bit more often. But other than that, life's probably about the same. But don't blow it up too much bigger than what it needs to be. But just take things day by day and be ready. Just be ready. That's all I gotta say. So with that said, we'll as the map starts filling up, I'll start paying attention to what's going on. I see some more states have been called since then. It's probably a whole bunch of basic states anyways, but I'll pay attention to what's going on. I'll report back and give my opinion and all that other stuff. Also, one thing you can expect is early in the night, especially in the very close states, expect the Republicans to have the lead. So about once the vote gets past 50% or so, Republicans are probably going to be in lead in that state. That's because rural states tend to get their votes in early. They tend to get them in first. They have lower populations, so they can get through their count faster. But urban populations that tend to vote more likely to vote Democrat, they get their votes in later in the night. And that's part of the reason why you got the Republicans and Donald Trump calling for cutting the vote off at midnight, because they're really trying to prevent the later Democrat advantage, right? And try to say, oh, it's cheating. They came back from nowhere. We were winning the whole night. You need to just turn off the TV and stop watching the horse race. At the bottom line, at the end of the day, they're counting legal ballots regardless. And they come in wherever they come from. So if you don't, stop watching the horse race of which ballots come in first and which ballots come in last, if you don't want to have your heart hurt when all of a sudden you're thinking your candidate's winning, and all of a sudden at the end of the night it doesn't work out the way you want it to. That's you needing to step away from the TV. That's not cheating. All of a sudden, you don't have to make up a narrative and find some way to find out cheating's happening. So we don't have the brightest citizenry at the end of the day. We have a lot of folks that fall for anything and everything that's thrown out there, and unfortunately, that's just what it is. So we have to deal with it and face it as it is. But keep your spirits up. The night's young. We'll see what happens. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and peace. And we are about to be out. Actually, yeah.